If you are over the age of 60, you have likely spent decades working hard, raising a family, caring for others, and doing what had to be done. And now you stand at the doorway of a new chapter. And whether you call it retirement, reinvention, or simply your time, something powerful begins to stir inside you. You realize life is no longer about chasing more, it is about choosing better. But here is something few people say out loud. Sometimes living better does not mean adding more to your plate. It means taking things away, letting go of the habits, the pressures, and the old beliefs that no longer serve you. In fact, letting go might be the single most freeing choice you can make after 60. Before we dive in, let me ask you a question. How often have you thought to yourself, I wish I had done this sooner? Maybe you said it after taking a trip, after buying something you finally allowed yourself to enjoy, or even after saying no to something that drained your energy. Those little moments of realization are a clue. They are reminders that your time is now, not tomorrow, not eventually, now. So, in this part of the series, we are going to explore 5 things worth letting go of after the age of 60. First is this: stop saving out of fear. Now, I know that might sound unusual because saving money is a habit. Most of us were raised with save for a rainy day, save for retirement, save just in case. And through much of your life, that was wise advice. Saving kept you safe. Saving gave you options. Saving helped you build a future. But here is the twist. What happens when later is no longer a distant dream? What happens when later is already here? I once met a man who had over $1 million saved in retirement accounts. He had no debt, a paid-off home, and more than enough to live comfortably. Yet every time his wife suggested taking a vacation, buying a camper, or even just going out for a nice dinner, he tensed up. He would say, "Had if something happens, what if we need that money later?" And so year after year they waited and worried until one day I asked him a simple question: what if you never use it? What if later never comes the way you expect it to? And that question stayed with him, and maybe it stays with you too. The purpose of saving is not to hoard it forever. The purpose of saving is to create the life you actually want to live. So if your basic needs are covered, if you have planned responsibly, then give yourself permission to enjoy the life you built. Take the trip, buy the gift, create the memory, not recklessly, not carelessly, but without guilt. Because your money is not just for emergencies, it is for living, it is for connection, it is for joy. So here is a small shift you can try. Instead of asking, what if I run out, start asking, what is worth spending on while I still can? Because your time is now. Let's move to the second thing to release. Stop spending on what does not bring you joy. Now, this may sound like the opposite of the first lesson, but they actually go hand in hand. Once you allow yourself to spend, you need to make sure you spend in the right way, because many of us fall into patterns. We buy things out of habit. We buy out of guilt or out of pressure to keep up appearances. Once spoke with a woman in her early 70s. She told me she used to spend thousands of dollars a year on clothes she never wore, gifts she felt pressured to give, and gadgets she only bought because they were on sale. But when she looked back, she could barely remember those things. What she did remember with crystal clarity was a $600 flight she took to surprise her sister on her birthday. They laughed, they cried, they stayed up late telling stories, and that one weekend meant more to her than years of shopping trips combined. That is the difference between spending and spending well. After 60, your money should align with your values. Maybe that means travel. Maybe it means helping a grandchild with school. Maybe it means a cozy chair that eases your back, or dinners with friends. Whatever it is, spend there. Let go of the meaningless purchases. Let go of guilt-based spending. Let go of trying to impress others, because you do not owe anyone an explanation for how you enjoy your life. And here is something important: joy does not always carry a price tag. Sometimes the richest moments are the simplest: sitting on a porch with someone you love, writing a handwritten letter, walking in nature without your phone. Before you buy something, ask yourself, is this helping me live the life I want, or is it just noise? No. The third thing to let go of: stop trading your time for money. Unless it still brings you meaning. For decades, time and money have been tied together. For you showed up, you worked hard, you gave your hours in exchange for a paycheck, and that was necessary. It helped you build a life. But in this chapter, your time is your most valuable currency. So ask yourself, am I still working because I love it, or because I am afraid to stop? Does my work give me purpose, or does it just keep me busy? Because the truth is, you can always earn more money, but you can never earn more time. I once knew a high school teacher who loved his work he taught for over 30 years, and when people asked him when he would retire, his answer was always, "When I stop loving it." And that is exactly what he did. He taught until he was 67. And when the day came that the joy was gone, he stepped away with peace and no regret. But I have also seen the other side, people who stay in jobs they dislike simply because they do not know who they are without that role, people who are afraid to slow down because they have never been given permission to just be, and that is heartbreaking, because once today is gone, no paycheck can buy it back. So, if your work still lights you up, keep doing it with pride. But if it drains you, if it steals your energy, then it may be time to let it go, because you have traded time for money long enough now. It is time to trade time for meaning. Fourth thing to release: stop putting off experiences. How many times have you said, someday I will take that trip, someday I will try that hobby, someday I will start that adventure? But here is the truth: someday is not a real day on the calendar. And for many people, someday never come. Messi met a couple who dreamed of driving cross-country in an old Airstream trailer. They had the money, they had the time, but every year they said, next summer. Then one winter the husband had a health scare, nothing life-threatening, but enough to shake them, and suddenly they realized they had been waiting for permission that would never come. So they packed up, hit the road, and 6 months later, they told me it was the best decision they had ever made, not because every day was easy, but because they finally did it. So I want to ask you directly, what is something you have been putting off? A trip, a skill, a visit with an old friend? Why not? Now you do not need to wait for perfect timing. You do not need everything lined up neatly. You do not need approval from anyone, because often behind waiting is fear. Fear of change, fear of trying something new, fear of finally prioritizing yourself. But this year you can choose differently. You can choose to say yes, because you are not too old. It is not too late, and the world is still full of wonder. And that brings us to the fifth thing: stop neglecting your health. This one may sting a little, but it is the most important, because when people think of retirement, they think in terms of years left: 15 years, 25 years, maybe more. But the real question is, how many healthy years do you have left? Because without your health, nothing else matters. If you do not have the energy to enjoy your life, the trips, the family gatherings, the small daily joys, then even the largest bank account will feel empty. Let me ask you, would you rather have $20 million but feel sick, tired, and in pain every day? Or would you rather have just 1 million and feel vibrant, strong, and full of life? Almost everyone would choose the second, yet strangely many of us live as if chasing the first. There is the hopeful part: you do not need to overhaul your entire lifestyle. You do not need to run marathons or switch to a strict diet. You can start small, walk a little more each day, stretch in the morning, choose water instead of soda, join a local fitness class designed for people your age. Even light strength training with proper guidance can transform your balance, your energy, and your independence. This is not about weight loss or chasing youth. It is about protecting your freedom, your ability to travel, play with your grandchildren, and wake up each morning with energy. Your body is the vehicle for the life you want, so treat it with care. Schedule the doctor appointment you have been avoiding. Cook one healthy meal this week, just one, because health is not about perfection. It is about momentum, and the best time to begin is always now. If you stay with me until the end, you will feel a shift in how you see your days ahead. So let us step forward together and continue. Sixth thing to let go of after the age of 60 is worrying about what others think of you. And I want to ask you a question: have you noticed how many choices in your life were shaped not by what you truly wanted, but by what you thought would please others? Maybe it was the way you dressed, or the career path you took, or even the hobbies you never allowed yourself to explore, because someone might laugh. And here is the truth: after 60, the world is no longer watching the way you fear it is. People are too busy living their own lives, and if they do judge you, those judgments fade in seconds, but the regret of living for their approval can last a lifetime. So why not give yourself permission today to step out boldly and say, this is who I am, and I no longer shape my days around the whispers of others? Because freedom comes not from being liked, but from being authentic. And the more authentic you become, the more respect you gain. And here is the hook: the people who matter will love you for who you really are, and the ones who don't were never meant to stay in your circle anyway. Seventh thing to let go of after the age of 60 is the constant consumption of doom and gloom. And I know you have seen it, the endless news cycle, the scrolling social media filled with fear and division, the television shows that leave you tense instead of inspired. And the truth is, your mind is a garden, and what you plant inside it grows. And if you fill it with worry and negativity, then worry and negativity become your harvest. So imagine instead waking up and filling your morning, not with anxious headlines, but with gentle music or a walk outside or even a phone call with someone who lifts your heart. Imagine ending your evening not with loud arguments from a screen, but with a good book or quiet reflection. And here is the hook: you cannot control the noise of the world, but you can choose what you let inside your mind. And by letting go of constant negativity, you reclaim peace and clarity and energy. I remember sitting with a woman in her 70s who told me she used to watch the news for 3 hours every evening until she realized she ended each night angry, sad, or afraid. So she made a choice. She replaced just one of those hours with gratitude writing, and within weeks, she said her sleep improved, her energy lifted, and her laughter returned. And she told me it felt like someone had opened a window and let the sunshine back. And the thing to let go of is ignoring your financial plan, or on the other side, obsessing over it to the point where it steals your joy. And I know money can feel heavy at any age, but after 60, it is easy to fall into two traps. Either you push it aside and hope it all works out, or you worry about it every waking moment. And both paths take away your peace of mind. So what can you do? You can sit down and truly look at your situation. You can speak with someone you trust who understands finances, or you can simply get honest about what you need versus what you think you need. Because here is the hook: money is not just about numbers, it is about freedom. It is about making choices that align with the life you want to live, not the fears that chase you. We knew a gentleman in his 80s who said he never truly enjoyed his retirement until he realized he did not need as much as he thought. He sold the big house, he let go of the expenses that drained him, and he moved to a smaller place near his grandchildren. And with less financial stress, he discovered more happiness than he ever had before, because peace often comes not from adding, but from subtracting. Ninth and final thing to let go of after the age of 60 is the illusion that you have forever. And I know that sounds heavy, but let me share why it is the most liberating truth of all. For decades, many of us live as if tomorrow is guaranteed. We put dreams on the shelf. We say, someday I will travel, someday I will start painting, someday I will spend more time with loved ones. But someday can quietly become never. So let me ask you right now, what have you been putting off that your heart longs for? Is it a conversation you need to have, a trip you want to take, a skill you want to learn, or even a relationship you want to heal? And here is the hook: life is shorter than we think, but it is also richer than we realize. And when you stop living like you have forever, you begin to live like every day is a gift. I remember a man in his 90s who told me the secret to his joy was simple. He said every morning he wakes up and thanks life for one more sunrise, and then he chooses to do one thing that brings him joy, whether it is sitting in the garden, calling an old friend, or baking bread. And he said the key is not to wait for big moments, but to create small ones every single day, because those small moments become the treasure chest of your life. So, as we close this journey together, let us recap what we have discovered in these last 4 lessons. We have learned to release the weight of other people's opinions, to let go of the constant diet of negativity, to face our financial truth with honesty and simplicity, and most of all, to stop living as if we have endless tomorrows and start living as if today is the miracle it truly is. And if you take nothing else from this talk, take this: life after 60 is not about slowing down, it is about lightening up. It is about choosing joy, choosing peace, choosing freedom, and choosing presence. And the more you let go, the more space you create for what really matters. So my friend, I invite you to ask yourself tonight, what is one thing I can let go of today? And what is one thing I can embrace instead? Because when you do that, you are not just adding years to your life, you are adding life to your years. And that is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Thank you for sharing this time with me. And if this message has touched you, do not just keep it to yourself, share it with someone else who may need to hear that their best chapter can still be ahead, because it truly can be.